ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
This is Cop Talk, talking crime, cases, and backing the blue. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. This is the co-host of the show because, again, our host, Kevin Schroeder, first grade retired detective, is out on a mission. Lately, he's been on a lot of these missions. However, he's on the show remotely, so he will partake. And, of course, you know who I am. I'm retired Captain Edward Mamet, 40-year veteran of the New York City Police Department. Before we start, I would like to dedicate this program to the 20 or so Israeli police officers that were murdered in their police station in Israel. It was a very, very tragic thing. And also, we want to honor those other Israeli citizens and soldiers who were murdered by these brutal animals, Hamas. Hopefully, they will get their just due and go to hell, not to heaven, to paradise. Okay, now we turn over to our host, Kevin Schroeder. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hello, everyone. Kevin Schroeder here, retired NYPD Detective. We have a really good guest today, Mike Sapraicone. He's a retired first-grade detective. He came on the job 1980 and retired in 2020. He's a Republican running against George Santos in the New York 3rd Congressional District. Mike, welcome.
Kevin, thanks for having me. Great to sit here with Ed, too. And I didn't do 40 years like Ed did. I retired in 2000, though, Kevin. So I've been out 23 years already.
It goes quick, doesn't it?
It does. Now, when did you leave?
So I retired October of 12/12, so I'm at 11 years. I did 28 years, a little short of 28. I'm at 11 years.
I always say that's 8 years too many, okay? 20 was good for me. It worked, right?
Well, after 20, you're a volunteer. But you know what? Right. I love the job. We were having fun. The job is the job. It's whoever created the job, God bless them, because it's the greatest job in the world as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
So, Mike, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Queens, Richmond Hill, Queens. I'm a Richmond Hill kid. I spent my first 20 or so years there. I went to Holy Child Jesus Parish in Richmond Hill. That's where I grew up. And then I went to Holy Cross High School in Flushing for my high school years.
Okay. So, Mike, why don't you tell everyone your law enforcement career, your involvement with your community as well?
Well, you know, Ed and I had a conversation about this later, and he said I became a PD guy when we merged, and I said that was the hostile takeover. You guys merged with the transit police.
Yeah, well, it depends who you ask.
That's
you know?
right.
It seems the transit and housing didn't want to merge, but either did we.
Right. I agree. But it worked out, I guess, well for everybody, right?
Yes, it's great. It's one big family, absolutely.
So, you know, Kevin, back in the 70s, and I'm 67 years old, I'm not a child. So back in the 70s, you were taking every law enforcement test there was, no matter where it was, city, state, federal. And I took a bunch of tests. And I took the state trooper test in New Jersey. And that's actually where I got called for first. I got called for them in 1979. And there were only 2 female state troopers at the time. And they sued the state, saying there should be more females. So they stopped my class that was going in 79, and they put in, and that would have been the 96 class or the 95th class, and then they put in the females. And when the females were done, I got called back in 1980, and I went into the 97th class of the New Jersey State Police. And you lived in Seagirt at the time. So you went down every Monday morning to Seagirt, New Jersey, and it was cold. It was November. And you actually shot the range. It was outside. It was an outside range, and it was out on the beach. So I was there for about a month, and then I got called by the NYPD. And they said, hey, listen, we have openings in the transit police. Would you like to be a transit police officer? And I grew up in Queens, and I didn't know there was a difference between housing, transit, and the PD. So I said, well, I guess it's okay. Tell me, I really want to be a regular cop. And he said, oh, we're all regular cops. And I said, okay, well, what's the pay? Oh, everybody makes the same. And, you can come in Monday and get sworn in. So I said, okay. And I went in the December 1st class of 1980. And I became a transit police officer. And you know what? I've got to tell you, it was the greatest career I could imagine. I had so much fun, so many friends, and I learned so much. With you guys, you roll up the window at some point, right? And you pull away. There's no window in the train I could ever roll up, and you work by yourself all the time. So I learned, and you'll see I'm a talker already, Kevin, but I learned how to talk and communicate with people being on the subway and holding on to the subway rail and stuff. So I had a great career there. I was lucky enough. When I came on in 1980, there were a bunch of layoffs. As you all remember, in the 73, there were no hirings from 73 to 80 almost, and those cops were laid off throughout the whole city. And a lot of them got jobs with the MTA or whatever, they gave them jobs. But by the time I came on in 80, the rookies had 7 years on, and they were all disgruntled at that point. They didn't care. They hated the job, and they were just there waiting for their retirement because there had been no meritorious promotions. There had been no civil service promotions. So it was a great opportunity for the young guys who came on in the early 80s to get promoted. I winded up, and we use the term in the bag, right? And that means in uniform. I only did about 6-8 months in the bag, and I wound up in a local anti-crime unit. And that sent me into a citywide anti-crime unit where I got promoted in 1986 to third grade detective, which was a big deal. I was only 30 years old. I was a third grade detective. I had a great life. It was all good. My children, I had 2 children at the time and raising a family, and it was hard. And I was working 3 jobs. I was doing 9 at night to 5:30 in the morning, working in a bus squad. And then I would work at Nobody Beats the Whiz in the morning. Go there and then go home, catch a couple hours, and then I'd go deliver Chinese food before I went back to work at 9:30 at night. So it was fun. It worked. It was all good. And then in about 90 or 91, I got promoted to second grade, and that was good. It was, and as we all know, hard work is very important, but it's also who you know a little bit of, right? So I was starting to make friends, in the department, starting to get into the right places. I was an active cop, an active detective. And then we had the hostile takeover or the merge, whatever you want to call it. And, Braden and Maple were my bosses in the transit police, so I adjusted well into the merge. And I went to work in Jack Maple's office, who, along with Braden and whomever else wants to claim credit, were the creators of CompStat, I guess, right? That changed the whole department back in the mid-'90s. And so I was very much part of that.
Mike, when you retired, what did you do? What did you?
The timing was good, Kevin. I had gotten my watch guard license. As some of us know, that's a license to do security business. I had gotten that while I was on the job. So there was an opportunity when I left. I left right before 9/11, the December before. And all of a sudden, my company started picking up. And my little niche in the world was just to have retired or active cops work for me. So that worked well. After 9/11, we picked up the American Stock Exchange, and we moved what we call in our business square badges, unarmed guards or low-end guards. We were able to put 30 cops in the exchange at that time, and we took over the American Stock Exchange with all law enforcement. And then my company just kept building and building from that point on. Apple was my client in the late 90s, and I've had Apple for over 23 years, and they've been my client.
Ladies, you'll end up shopping for your guy's deodorant, right? So try Degree's Original Cool Rush. You see, last year, Degree changed the formula, and men were mad. One guy even started a petition. So Degree admitted they messed up and brought the Original Cool Rush scent back. It's clean, crisp, and actually smells like someone you want to cuddle. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So toss one in your cart and find out why it's the best-selling men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
Hey guys, finding the perfect gift for the food lover in your life is easy. Thanks to Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships America's most iconic foods straight from world-famous restaurants right to your door. So if you want to treat someone to Joe's Stone Crab from Miami, Franklin Barbecue from Texas, or desserts from famous foodies like Ina Garten or Martha Stewart, Goldbelly has you covered with free shipping anywhere in the country. Just go to goldbelly.com and for a limited time, get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's promo code GIFT.
That's great. You know, Mike, what made you decide to run for Congress?
Well, Kevin, the real story is my wife's a sitting Supreme Court justice in Nassau County. She has 12 more years left in her term. All my kids are out of the house, okay? And I'm terrible at golf. So I thought, and I sold my company last September. So I said, I have to do something, and why not give back a little bit more like I did when I was on the job and start helping? I'm so tired of the crazy left and the crazy right, and I'm a guy who uses common sense, and that's what I used in business and on the job. I thought this was the right time. And as we know on the job, timing is so important. And this was just the right time, I think, to come in. And I think I have a lot to offer with my police experience and my business experience. And I'm just pleased to be able to try to give back and help the community.
Right. Now, Captain?
Yeah, if you get elected, which we hope you will, and you get the job.
Thank you.
You would be, as far as I can recall, the fourth member of the New York City Police Department to go to Congress. It began with Mario Biaggi, who was the first New York City police officer to become a congressman. And a lot of people know there was a fellow that I worked with called Frederick Heineman.
I didn't know him.
Yes, Frederick Heineman was an inspector. I think he moved down to the South, and he was elected to one of the congressional districts in the South. And then we have Anthony D'Esposito, who was a sitting congressman.
Great guy.
And he was the third. And when you win and you get sworn in, you will be the fourth.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, Cap. I'm really looking forward to it.
So now that leads me to my next question. How does your policing, I think you hit on this a little bit before, but how does your policing career fit into your political aspirations?
Well, I think it's important that we're problem solvers. As cops and as detectives, we're problem solvers. I mean, when we're on the streets, we're not just enforcers and deterrents. We're also psychiatrists in many ways, right? And I know the department's trying to change those methods, that we're not that much that anymore. But that's what we are. We're sounding boards for people. We listen to people. I learned to listen as a police officer and as a detective, to listen to everybody's interest in their cares and their problems, right? So I think that's so important, to be able to listen. I think we don't do that anymore in politics, right? Everybody's worried about their own agenda and really not listening to what the constituents want to do.
Yeah, and everybody's on their cell phones texting.
And it drives me crazy, too, when I see young cops. My wife said something yesterday, that cop's on his cell phone. I said, I think the department issues you phones now. He's probably working. I lied. I don't know. Okay.
Not true.
But I said, I guess that's what that must be, right?
Well, there's no question that having a career in law enforcement prepares you for many things in life. People don't realize that, because if you're around long enough, you encounter just about everything. Everything. As we said, it's the greatest show on earth.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, every day is a new adventure. And I would always remember if it was one of my kids' birthdays or something like that, I would take the day off because that's the day you're going to catch that homicide, you're going to catch this case, or you're going to wind up on this thing. So, and I went sick one time in my 20 years. I took one period of sickness, whatever we got, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it was. So I love the job. I love to come in. The people are great. The job is great. And the old timers, I'm going to call you Cap, an old timer. Probably when I came on, you said, kid, this job isn't what it used to be. And 20 years later, I'm saying to some kid, and right, Kevin, we said this job isn't what it used to be. But we didn't know, and it turned out great, right?
When I came on the job, there were still cops who were working during Prohibition, believe it or not.
Okay.
Anyway, talk about about the 3rd Congressional District and what part of Queens and Long Island does it cover?
So it's a mixed district. It's interesting. It's the only district in Nassau that goes into Queens. So District 3 covers from Cold Spring Harbor in Nassau County right up into Great Neck in Nassau County, and then it continues west through Little Neck and Douglaston. We have parts of Melba, parts of Whitestone. We have a little bit of Flushing, and we have some of Bayside. So it's about 19% of the district is Queens-based. And that brings home great memories of growing up in Queens and going to school in that area.
And what are the main concerns of this district?
I think the concerns in this district are just like everyone's concerns. Crime is such an important issue. Economy is such an important issue. And we look at, we're all immigrants. So I don't think it's fair to say immigration is the issue, but I think migration is the issue. And all of us come from some kind of immigration, and our parents or our grandparents worked hard to be here. I just don't think it's fair that what we're doing now, allowing people to come in and giving them jobs and education without any vetting. So what's important is we need to vet people again. There's some stats just came out, something ridiculous. 5.7 million people have entered this country that have been unvetted. And it's in the since the Biden administration took over. And it's absurd. Over 150 people just in this year alone have been stopped by the FBI, and they've been on the terrorist watch list. So that's not what bothers me so much, that 150 people were stopped. But what bothers me is how many people have gotten through this country without having any kind of run-in or stop or interaction or observance by the police departments. So we have to have millions of people in this country who could be on that watch list, okay? And these are all people of military age, too, young people, and, who are coming into this country only to do bad. These criminals and these actors, it's not good for the country.
Well, I have this theory. If you put them all into the Army, you say, listen, you got to go into the Army, you'll see how fast they run back to their native countries.
Right, exactly.
It's a good thought. Maybe you should be running for Congress there, Cap. I mean...
my next life. Very important. This is really important. Recently, you appeared on Newsmax, and you talked about the need for law enforcement to get more involved in counterterrorism, particularly in light of what happened in Israel, which is a very timely subject. Can you give us information about that? What you would consider being done?
People talk about defunding the police and cutting assignments and cutting down units and things. And I think we're looking at a city council. And listen, Adams, the mayor, and he came on a couple of years after me. So when did you come on, Kevin?
I came on January 1985.
So I come on December 80. I think Adams is somewhere between us, 82, 83, something like that, I think, right? So he was a transit cop. We never really worked together with some of his partners. I think he's, trying to do what he can do, but I think you have the city council, that you have a situation here with the city council where they're so far left. They just think, let's get rid of the police, let's get rid of all these units. Braden had put some great units in, more anti-terrorist units and counterterrorism units, and they're trying to do away with these units. They cut their overtime, cut the units, and this is a time when we need more intel, and we all know, intel is what it's all about. This is how we solve the problems. This is how so many people don't know what's happened in the terrorist world and threats that New York City has gotten, because New York, the NYPD has been able to, and the FBI and the Joint Terrorist Task Force have been able to stop these threats because of the intel that we get ahead of time. And people don't realize that. People don't see that. It's such an important thing, and I just think we have to stop talking about defunding the police and getting rid of units, especially now that we're opening ourselves up here after the Israel situation last week. Who's the next target? New York's the target. We all know that. New York will always be a target for anything that happens in this country.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think the move to cut down on anti-terrorism forces is a big, big mistake, especially with all these illegals in the country. We don't know how many of them are really terrorists. And Curtis Lewa makes this point. They're coming in not just from South America, coming in from these African countries where there's the hot spots of terrorists.
All over the place. Yes, definitely all over the place. They're coming in from Afghanistan. They're coming in from Iran, Iraq. They're coming in from everywhere, not just Venezuela, not just Mexico.
Kevin?
Yeah, Mike, you have any suggestions for the NYPD in regards to recruitment and retention? It just seems like we can't hire anyone, and then we do. They leave for other departments or for other jobs. I mean, it's not like when we were on where, guys stayed like Ed 40 years, or if they did leave, they went to Nassau or Suffolk for more money. However, today, it seems like the kids are leaving just to move on.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Kevin. I remember when we were on, if you went to Nassau and Suffolk, we would say, geez, you're going to this great job. You're making a lot of money, and it's an easy job. Well, that's changed over the years. There's no police job in this country that's an easy job anymore. Those days are over. Every job is a tough, tough job. I don't know how to keep – it's hard just in business, Kevin, and we talk about our business, just trying to hire younger people. It seems the younger people don't want to take the same ownership, okay? They don't want to take the same ownership in the companies and the places they work. It's hard to retain good people. And the money and even school teachers and nurses and things like this, these are careers we need. And the money isn't that good, and people leave and move on. And I think in our day, I was happy to work 20 years, and Ed, 40 years, and you 28 years. 8 years too many, by the way. But you, 28 years. Kids don't do that nowadays. They move on to different places and try different things, and
right.
It's kind of sad in a way. Hard to retain good people, right?
Different generation as well.
It is.
So, Mike, what's the latest on Santos escapades? What's the latest?
Well, it's every day and every moment is something new. He was crying in the halls of Congress the other day about some Palestine spokesperson or somebody complaining about Palestine and then about anti-Israel and this and that. But it seems he's taking a temper tantrum every day. And part of the problem is there's no adults in the room right now, and you need an adult in the room. And so Santos left a stain not just on Nassau County, but on the state of New York and on the country. And I think, and I think that's important, and also the world. I own a company in London, Kevin, still that I'm selling, a security company, and they make fun of me over there, and they say, "Well, what kind of government do you have? Who's this clown? Who's this liar?" And it's an embarrassment. Santos is a person who has no ethics. He has no commitment to anybody but himself. And he's deceived over 140,000 people in District 3 in November of 2022 and left us with no representation at all. We have nobody to turn to in Congress for the simplest of things as getting a passport or anything else. And it's an embarrassment. It's a stain. He has to be moved. If I was now Anthony D'Esposito, who Captain talked about a little while ago, Anthony's retired third grader out of the 7-3.
Yes.
And last week he put a resolution forth to remove Santos. And the Ethics Committee has also been sitting on a resolution to remove Santos also. But the problem that lies right now is that until we get a Speaker of the House, and I don't think that's going to happen by tonight or by tomorrow, Congress can't do a thing. Their backs are against the wall. They can't put anything forth, any laws, any resolutions. So I'm hoping that when Congress gets a hand and a grip on themselves, and we go back to who's the adult in that room right now, we don't know who that is. When that happens, we're hoping to see something come through with Santos where he'll be removed by the Ethics Committee or be removed by Congressman D'Esposito's resolution.
Yeah, how's the campaign shaping up? What else is in the race so far?
There's several Democrats.
I mean, who else is in the race?
Well, there's a bunch of Democrats who have come in. I'm not going to name them. Why should we give them that free publicity, right? But there's a bunch of Republicans, too. There's about 9, and I'm vying right now for the Republican and the conservative nomination. And I think right now, out of the unknowns, we're the best unknown, okay, for the Republican Party in Nassau County. We're raising money. You know, I've been involved in a lot of boards and a lot of charities over the years, guys, and I'm used to giving money, so now I'm trying to learn how to ask for money. Very difficult thing to do, but we're doing well. We're raising money. We're meeting people. Part of the need to become that candidate in the Nassau County GOP is my ability to earn money, which we're doing, and also my ability to get out there and have people know me and recognize me. So I'm going to events and I'm hearing people say, hey, you're that guy, Mike the Cop guy, right? You're Mike the Cop. And, you're running for Congress. We're behind you. Get rid of Santos. Get rid of Santos. So a lot of times when I say I'm running for New York Congressional District 3, people don't know what that means. So I say, oh, you remember, that's the Santos. Oh, yeah, the Santos place. Yeah, you're that cop guy. Yeah. So it's been positive. Again, this is the honeymoon stage, I guess. I've never done anything in politics other than I was the school board president in Seaford, Long Island for several years. But other than that, this is my whole jump into politics thing, and it's different.
Well, Santos is a good reference point for people to remember.
It's a great reference point.
Mike, we've had Anthony D'Esposito on our show, our podcast, Cop Talk, and he was great, and we're very pro Anthony D'Esposito here at Cop Talk. Mike, what's the vibe with the people in the district, in Santos, in 3rd Congressional District in regards to Santos? What's their feel?
Oh, they're all up in arms. I was yesterday. Oyster Bay had their Oyster Bay Fest, and I was in the Syosset parking lot giving out, some bags, say Mike Sapraicone for Congress, and some pens and cards and whatever else we give out. And they were just like, oh, when are we getting rid of Santos? When is that happening? When is that happening? How did this happen to us? And so the vibe is people just want him gone. We all want him gone. And the reality, Kevin, is what's happening. He had to step down by a date in August in order to have an October special election. And what a special election means is the Democratic chairman, Jay Jacobs, and the Republican chairman, Joe Cairo, would then choose a candidate. And that's the candidate. I'm vying for that position for Chairman Cairo to choose me as that candidate for the special election. That date came and passed. And now what's happening is he has a court date, October 27th. And if you remember last week or so, his treasurer just pled guilty to felony charges. And she also, apparently she gave him up on some other charges that he was indicted on last week. So there's a court date, October 27th. Rumors are all over the place. He denies that he's going to step down, that he's making a deal. But in law enforcement, we all know when you move a court date or somebody starts to give you up, you're working some kind of deal. Something's going on.
Right.
So I'm hoping and we're assuming that's going to happen, right, some point between now and the election. And that would force the governor. She would have 10 days to make a decision. And then she would have to set an election. And that election would take place between 60 and 80 days from that date. And that's when that would be a special election. That could be somewhere in January or February. The interesting part about that is you still have to run again in November of 2024 because that's when his term expires. So when I win in January or February, then I have to just prepare to get ready to win again in November for the next term. So it'll be interesting.
Well, that would be great having two retired New York City cops representing New York. That would be very unusual. Anyway, ever since the George Floyd incident, crime in this country and in New York is spiraling out of control. What would you do in Congress to address this nationwide problem?
Well, boss, a lot of this, let's narrow it down before we get to Congress. Let's talk about New York State because it starts here, got politics and crime, grassroots and stuff, and the bail reform that's going on, right? I mean, I don't have any say over the bail reform being a congressman. It's a state issue, but the states need to clean up their act so the federal government can do a better job. Okay, the bail reform thing is out of control. I mean, listen, no one disagrees that if you're arrested and you can't make bail, But it depends on the crime. It depends on the discretion of the judges. We've taken that discretion away. And we see so many times these repeat offenders, right? There's recidivists. So many people just getting out, and you find out this guy had a warrant for this guy was locked up for 2 robberies, and they're committing those same crimes again. We have to look into the situation and stop people from doing this. We need to give the judges back discretion. I know Hochul's trying to do that. She's failing at that. That's not working. We have district attorneys in Nassau and Suffolk. We have great district attorneys. We have Ann Donnelly in Nassau doing a great job, and Ray Tierney in Suffolk doing a great job. But look at what we have in Manhattan. Look what we have in Brooklyn and the Bronx. We have liberal prosecutors who are just not even. I walk down the street and I'm smelling marijuana everywhere. I don't even know if cops know how to handle that or what to do anymore. Is it a summons? Is it an arrest? Is it, hey, kid, please smoke over there? So the little things, and this reminds me of going back to the Brad and Giuliani days in the 90s when we did quality of life. And quality of life is so important, and broken windows, right? So important when we were doing those things. And that's where it starts. Theft of service, jumping the turnstile, open bottles, open containers. We stop people and we question them. And so many people, we came back with warrants or weapons on them. Those things are away. Now, I know maybe we got carried away. Maybe we got carried away at some point and used it for the wrong reasons. Those things can happen. But things do need to be looked at and revamped a little bit and retrained, and we're doing that. I think the PD is doing that, and they've done that well. We need to get back to nitty-gritty, back to basics in this country.
But how would you carry that over to Congress on a federal level?
So I think I would be pushing for reforms, okay? I would be pushing for better training in the police departments. I'd be pushing for federal funds to help the police departments with anti-terrorism, with quality of life things. We don't do anything with that anymore. I think I'd be pushing back on the drug laws. I mean, if you remember, certainly, and I'm sure Kevin and I do, the Rockefeller drug laws in New York, right?
Yes, I remember very well.
Right? Yep. And Koch's stuff with the 1 year mandatory with weapons, right? Well, I'm not sure what the federal government can do, but I know that I will be a voice to stand up for law enforcement and stand up for, I've always said this as a joke, criminal justice, it's justice for the criminals. Okay, it needs to not be justice for the criminals. It needs to be justice for the constituents, the people who walk the streets. I make fun of when I was a young cop in transit, there was nothing like the fresh smell of urine when you got into that subway car or into that staircase. But you know what? You go to a play in the city and you take your wife or your girlfriend or your kids and you're seeing homeless people lying on the steps. You're seeing people lying on the trains. You're seeing what we called EDPs, emotionally disturbed people. I guess that's unpolitically not correct anymore. Right? There's a different term, right? But this is what you see, and I see cops walk away, and I see cops turn their back, and I talk to them, and I say, and they say, listen, it's not worth it anymore because no one's supporting us, and we need to support the police. And Kevin, that kind of goes back to your question about retaining people and keeping good people. We need to support them as a government.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
You know, one thing you might consider when you're in Congress is returning and bringing back the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration. Do you remember that?
Is this LEAP?
LEAP.
So I didn't go to school on LEAP.
I did. I went for 16 years. No, LEAP was a part of the LEAA.
Right, okay.
The LEAA was the Law Enforcement Assistance Program.
Okay.
And under that, they had LEAP, which is the Law Enforcement Education Program. And that program paid for college educations, and I took advantage of that. And for 16 years, I wound up getting a master's through it. Now, there were so many retirements because cops are discouraged, they're disgruntled. Right. I think that bringing back the LEAA with the LEAP program would encourage people to come into law enforcement and raise their status and their stature. That's one of the big problems we have today is this mass retirement. It's no longer a calling. You know,
right.
From your time and my time and Kevin's time, you know, it was a calling, and so that might be something you would consider.
Well, you know, that's a good point, and it's not a career anymore. We called it careers. Now these kids are calling it jobs. It's a job. It's a job. It's not a career. So that's a big deal, the law enforcement. That's important. That's a great issue, boss. I appreciate you telling me.
It's ready-made. All you have to do is reinstitute it.
Okay.
Hey, Mike. Excuse me. Hey, Mike. As a former cop, how would you like to see law enforcement evolve to meet America's growing challenges today?
Wow. Well, I think I always believe in training, right? I think training is a big deal. I think I believe in best practices too, Kevin. And I think, you know, it's always good. We all do things we think well until we look at other things and we say, hey, wow, that department or that company does things really good. Can I institute that stuff to make me a better company? You know, before 9/11, we didn't really have the best communications between the departments, right? We talk about the feds and the state, right? How much do we not give info to the FBI or the Secrets or whatever it might be, State Department? And that stuff all changed. I think it's important that we look at all the departments and we, as a member of the PD or as a member of Nassau County or the LAPD, we should get together. We should discuss the way we work and best practices that other departments come up with. And I think that's all important stuff to move us forward in policing. I think training and I think retaining senior people, senior detectives and senior, superior officers. We don't do that. Like you say, it's massive people just leaving. They don't care. They don't want to be here anymore. We need those people to train our younger officers and train our younger bosses and detectives. You know, I think that's important.
Captain?
Well, I think this has been a great interview. I think you're the right guy for the job. Let's hope it works out. And if we can help you in any way, we would be very much like to.
I couldn't have asked for more, boss. I appreciate being here with you and Kevin. And Anthony D'Esposito, you guys, you're backing the right guy with Anthony. And I call everybody kid, Kevin. We call everybody kid. It's just a cop thing. He's a great kid.
Yep.
You know, he works really hard. And Anthony and I are very good friends also, but I'm so proud to know him and as an NYPD officer and detective to see him be in Congress.
Well, you know, we had him on the show here.
I know, Kevin was saying. I'm hoping to join him soon, guys.
Okay.
Yes. Mike, could you tell our audience, about your website and how they could donate to your campaign?
So it's MikeSapraiconeForCongress.com, MikeSapraiconeForCongress.com. You know, any support you can give me, introduce me to people in the areas is great. And any financial support would be terrific, too. We could really appreciate everything, and we do appreciate everything. I mean, today we're looking at some donations. Where I had a retired person sent me $1 and told me she prays to God every night for me that I can win, and that's such an important big deal. You know, we need to get out to the retired people, and we need to get out to everyday people and explain this is important. You need to vote. You need to research your candidate. So again, Kevin and boss, thanks a lot. Mike Sapraicone for Congress.com. I really appreciate you guys having me here. And please ask me back because I could talk about cop stuff forever. I mean, we didn't even get into some of the real good stuff. Okay?
After you get into Congress, we'll have you back.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But Mike, I'd like to thank Mike Sapraicone, everyone running for here in New York, 3rd Congressional District here in Congress, and for Congress. and we wish you luck. We got your back, Michael. Thank you very much for being on Cop Talk. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. And you can follow us on Twitter at Cop Talk WABC. That's at Cop Talk WABC. Until next time, be safe out there. Thank you.